this 60 minutes, you will have some takeaway which will help you in your sales. That's a promise I want to make, and I welcome all of you. Okay, so this is the agenda for the day. So I'll have a quick introduction. Of course, Ashley already gave the introduction. We will discuss about 5 mistakes in sales that startups should avoid. So on the one thing every startup should do to increase their sales, I'll try to finish it by 40 to 45 minutes so that I can answer some of your questions in the last 15 minutes. Okay. Quick introduction. I've trained 6,000 plus people, traveled to 10 countries, handled 24 different nationalities. I'm an engineer, an MBA, written 2 books, visiting professor. All these are okay, but the main important thing is I'm also an entrepreneur like you for the last 10 years. In the first 7 years of my entrepreneurial life, I've run a company with 25 employees. I started with recruitment. I built a e-learning product. I had e-learning services, scaled up to 1 crore plus revenue. So I did a lot of mistakes. And I took a conscious decision that this is not going the way I want it to grow. But whereas parallelly, I was doing sales training and I'm really enjoying what I was doing. So I took a tough decision of closing my company 3 years back, starting my second company into sales training and consulting. And today I'm really enjoying and impacting a lot of people. So I'm still an entrepreneur for the last 10 years. So I definitely understand what are the pain and pleasure of being an entrepreneur for the last 10 years. I respect this slide the most rather than all the previous slides I had. Okay, so I know being an entrepreneur is not an easy thing, but we still want to do it because we enjoy it. So my mission is to help 100,000 entrepreneurs and salespeople across the world to positively impact them and transform them into sales superstars. Okay, so how can I help you today? So in the last 3 years, working with Kerala Startup Mission, Facebook Accelerator, Boeing Accelerator, HSBC Accelerator, Robert Bosch Accelerator, I had a chance to interact with more than close to 750 to 800 entrepreneurs in the last 3 years. We are doing programs for them. So I'm seeing a pattern, and there are some basic mistakes many entrepreneurs do. So I thought if you avoid these things, okay, so we can save a lot of time and energy, and we can focus on that one particular thing that is scaling up our startup. Okay, so I thought I will discuss these things with you. See, the first one is clarity in target segment. Okay, so when I ask startup founders, can you exactly tell me who is your target segment? So many entrepreneurs will ask me, Subbu, do you think as a startup or a small business owner, do I have the luxury to choose my target segment? So whoever is ready to buy, I will sell, as simple as such. Okay. So I see the merit in what entrepreneurs are saying, but at the same time, we should have 1 or 2 segments where we want to focus so that we have a proper lead generation activity. So for example, if you're in a B2B company, you may choose any company with 100 to 500 employees. It's my sweet spot. Or if you're in a B2C company, say you can choose that kids at the age of 5 to 15 is my target segment, or working women in the age group of 25 to 50 is my target segment. When you have a clearly defined target segment, then you can have your focused lead generation activity. See, already being the founder or the CEO as a startup, we are chief everything officer. Compliance problem, we have to solve. Recruitment problem, we have to solve. Delivery problem, we have to solve. Even if you have to make a courier, the founder has to go and do it, right? We already do all the things as a CEO, chief everything officer, right? So then we have only little time for our lead generation. And that lead generation also, if you don't have a defined target segment, then our efforts will be wasted. So I'm okay if you take business from any segment, but do we have a defined 1 or 2 segment where you want to focus as your target segment, which you feel it as a sweet spot, and do lead generation activity only for them, so that you get a lot of clarity. Your time is going to be very, very saved. Okay, so let me tell you a small story on this, because I want to spend more time on this particular point. This happened in my personal life. Okay, so in the year 2005 and 2006, I was a bachelor in Bangalore, and I was preparing for my MBA. Okay, CAT. I was preparing for my CAT exam. So my idea was to buy an independent house in Bangalore in 2005-06, then write CAT, go and join an MBA college, 1 year or 2 year, come back in those 2.5 years, sell the house, make that profit, close the education loan. So it looks very, very good in the paper. Okay. So as per the plan, I bought a house in Bangalore, and then I wrote CAT exam, cleared the CAT, got my MBA admission, 1 year residential MBA in Dubai, Singapore, went abroad, complete my MBA, came back. So as per my plan now, I had a close to 14-15 lakhs of education loan. I want to sell this house and close my loan. Who am I? I am generally very passionate sales guy right from my childhood. Now I got an MBA degree also and reasonably good in sales. I thought I can easily sell my house. But even after hiring a real estate agent, for next 3 years, I was not able to sell my house. 52 prospective people came and saw my house and they didn't buy. And what are the reasons they gave? Your approach road is very small, Subramanian. 2 cars cannot go at one shot. The other person told there is a canal going behind your house, so that's not good for our health, so we don't want to buy that. The third person told the locality where you are there, kind of a slum, low income people are there. I don't want my kids to grow up there. So many reasons they didn't buy my house. Friends, whenever you are not able to sell, the basic question is, am I selling to the right target people? So after 3 years, one weekend, I was thinking, what I'm calling myself as a sales guy. I'm already assistant manager. Now as a sales manager in sales. I can't even sell my house. Then I looked back and saw out of those 52 people, what is the profile of those people? 80% are from software industry. And more importantly, they are not from Bangalore. Why should they choose a house, my house, which is in a narrow street? They have a 2-bedroom apartment with swimming pool and a gym. The remaining 20% of people are from Bangalore, but they're not from my locality. They're from other side of Bangalore mostly. And again, they have much choice. Then who will be the right target customer for whom this house will be very attractive? I was thinking for a few hours, then I understand somebody living in this locality for 5 to 10 years, who is emotionally connected to this locality, for whom this low income group and narrow streets is not a problem. For them, this house is sellable. So I called my real estate agent and told him, sir, I want somebody within 0.5 to 1 kilometer from this locality, and they should have lived in this locality for at least 5 years. Only those people, bring them to me. So he took 1.5 months, but after 1.5 months, he brought one person. He's around 55 years of age. Where he's residing? He's residing next street to my house, current house. And how long he is there? Right from his birth. 55 years he was living in that house. And he want to buy this house for his sister who want to move from Chennai to Bangalore and want to live very near to his brother. So I thought he's a perfect customer for me. So I negotiated the price. I compromised my price around 2 to 3%. And within the first interaction, after my clarity on target segment, I was able to sell my house. So that is the day, my friends, I understand. Whenever you are struggling on selling, somebody is not buying your product for 2 months or 3 months, go back and see, are we selling it to the right target segment? So this one question and thinking and coming up with some answers, some tweaking itself is going to save a lot of time and efforts for you. Okay. So you should have, if somebody is buying, you should know why they are buying. If somebody is not buying, you should know why they're not buying. If a lot of people in the segment are not buying, maybe you assume they are your target market, but they don't feel that they can buy it from you. Okay. So this particular point I want to mention. And point number 2, of course, I will take all your questions later. Can you all hear me, friends? So can somebody type or say hi so that I know that you all are hearing?
Yes, Subramanian, we can hear you well.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So point number 2 is too many product and service. See, what happened in an entrepreneur life is you create a product or you create a service and go and reach to customers. And customer will say, you know what? So say, for example, you are creating organic products. Okay, you are creating organic products. You came up with hair oil and some face lotion or anything. Somebody will say, can you make a soap for this? When you make a soap, they will say, can you make a soap for my kids related soap? So what will happen is initially people will keep on asking so many things from you. So in order to get market, you also keep adding. But suddenly when you look back and think you want to sell 2 products, now you are having some 10 or 12 products or 7 or 8 different services. Then you will not be able to focus. Because see friends, why I'm saying this, I have done this mistake. Okay. It's not that I did everything right. During in 2013, 14, 15, when I was building my e-learning product, people will say, I want this feature, so I added that feature. They say, I want online test, I added online test. I want certificate, I added certificate. So I keep on adding. So much of my money, time and effort is keep on going on the product, but I'm not able to sell. Then I thought, boss, I stopped all those things. This is what I want. Can you buy it? So even when I closed my company, it's not because of the sales, it's because of my financial mismanagement. So the point I want to make here is, don't try to build a lot of products because people are asking. Have only 2 or 3 products or 2 or 3 services. Spend all your effort on sales, make some money, reasonably become a solid foundation on that particular product service, then slowly start something. Even a big company like Flipkart started with 1 product of selling books. Even a company like Amazon started with selling books. So if you see all the big companies today, they all started with 1 single product and started selling, make money. With that money only you should get another product. Okay, from your own pocket or pocket money, from the money you are putting from your pocket, you should not keep on building product. Then what happened? You will not have enough cash flow. Okay, our time will go only on creating product. And as an entrepreneur, right, we are very obsessed with our product and service. You want to create product that will be exciting for you. Oh, this is super, man, I want to create this. You will did a lot of research. You will start with superb organic soaps or a boutique under clothing with superior design. We are very passionate about it. You will keep creating. But sales is a boring thing. Okay, but the boring thing is what is going to give you money. You have to keep going and knocking doors of 20, 30, 40 of your customers, which is boring and rejection. But that's what is going to give you money. So rather than spending time on a lot of products, can we spend time on sales, reducing the number of products? Let me give you one story and then I will move on to the next one.
See, we just request you to highlight this slide so that all the participants can see the slide. If you can just, we can see it, but it's you just have to highlight it once. It's coming a little.
What should I do, Ashri? I didn't understand. Highlight means?
The slide. If you can just put the slide, this thing, because a little highlight, like if you can make it a little bigger. Because
it's already fully viewed. It's a maximized.
Because I just got a request from one of the participants. Can the other participants see the slide well? Let's just check with everyone. If you could just write on the chat box if you can see the PPT well. Yeah, it's too small, they are saying. Yeah.
No, can't.
They can't see it. Yeah. You have to pin the slide image actually. So if just let me. Yeah. Is it better now?
So it's a maximized.
Yeah, you just have to double click on that, and there's a pin option on the slide. So if you go to the top.
Actually, I don't have any control. Actually, I'm not able to do anything.
Yeah, okay, you can continue. I'll look into this. I'll just figure this. Yeah,
thank you on that. So if you see in the year 19, if I'm right, it's year 1994, I guess, 94 or 96. Okay, so Steve Jobs, who created Apple, he was thrown out of his company and he came back to the company, okay, as a consultant, then became the CEO again. So he asked for presentation of all the heads, saying that what are the products you are having? Come and give me a presentation, okay. So then product after product, people are giving presentation. The rumor was there are close to 70 different versions of product they were giving presentation. After a few presentation, Steve Jobs stopped them. Hey guys, can you please stop? So he went to the board and he drew a small 2x2 matrix like this. Maybe you can see the slide now. And he wrote that just 4 words, a 2x2 matrix: consumer, professional, desktop, and portable. The iMac Pro I have added so that you understand it clear. Okay, he wrote just these 4 words. So year after, any product Apple is making, there are only 2 products in those times. You're saying any product you make, there should be only 2 versions. One should be a desktop version. One should be a mobile version, portable version. And the desktop, within the desktop version, one for the consumer and one for the professional. Okay, so that's why we have MacBook Air and MacBook Pro. That's why we have iMac and Mac Pro, one for professional, one for consumer. All the 70, 80 products you are launching, you are discussing to me, if it's not fitting within this 4 box, stop that. So the rumor was, other than 7, 8 products, all other products are stopped. And all those engineers are moved into this particular 7-8 products. So till that time, Apple was making quarterly loss, quarter on quarter it was in loss. After this particular strategy, within 3 quarters, Apple started making a little profit in 1997. From 97 to till now, 23 years is equal to 92 quarters. Apple is consistently making profit. So my question to you, my friends, is, can you create a 2x2 matrix for yourself? Or can you come and say that these are the things I'm going to reduce. I'm going to stop doing things and I'm going to focus only on these 2 or 3 things. Today you are doing 7 or 8 things. Can you stop many things and focus on only 1 or 2 things? And give your 100% attention and focus on that. Trust me, within few months, it is going to give you a result. For example, I do only sales training and sales consulting, nothing else. Leadership training comes, I don't take it. Marketing consulting, I don't take it. Mentorship on leadership, no. So focusing on things, it's going to save a lot of your time. What will happen is decision making will be very, very clear. Otherwise, every time an opportunity comes, you have to think whether I have to do this or not. If you have a framework, a small 2x2 framework or 3x3 framework, or at least 5 rules you want to follow, your decision making will be very faster and you will have a lot of focus. Okay. Point number 3, lack of clear sales plan. So when during my interaction with entrepreneurs, I asked them this question, friends, do you have a sales plan? So people say, yeah, Subbu. I ask them, what is the sales plan? No, I want to achieve 50 lakhs this year. Then I say them, so this is your goal, your revenue goal. But what is your sales plan? That is my sales plan. So friends, there is a difference between the sales goal and the sales plan. The sales plan is the action item. Okay. So if you have to achieve 50 lakhs, if you say, let me take 2 examples, one on B2B and one on B2C. If you're in B2B, to achieve 50 lakhs, how many projects you have to win? Say on an average project size is say around 5 lakhs, then you have to win 10 projects. If you have to win 10 projects, then at least 30 customers would have shortlisted your proposal. If 30 customers would have shortlisted your proposal, you should have meet at least 60 to 75 customers so that they allow you to send your proposal. If you have to meet 75 customers, you should have at least 4 times the leads. You should have at least 300 leads to meet 75 customers. So for these 300 leads, what are the 5 actions you will do? Whether you will generate lead through social media or through any networking forum, or you will ask leads from your existing employees, how many sales people have to work on this? Going through this detail is what is a sales plan. Of course, you can make assumption. You can make a quarter on quarter, this is what I will do. But there should be a plan. Even if you fail, you will fail only from your percentage base, not from 0 or anything. Okay, not the revenue number. Having a clarity on first month, I will meet 10 customers. These 10 customers, they will be from Bangalore or somebody from Bangalore, some people from Chennai. For Chennai, how will I generate leads? So going into details is what the plan. This plan, trust me, will take 3 or 4 hours of your brainstorming with if you're co-founder or senior people, or if you're alone, a solopreneur, all you have to do is think and create a plan. Even if it is not a perfect plan, it's okay. But at least you have a plan on the way you can keep modifying it. If you're in a B2C segment, say you are selling something, say you are selling financial services, you are selling, say, mutual funds or insurance. So if I sell one insurance, I get my commission of 10,000 rupees or 5,000 rupees, and I want to achieve 50 lakhs. So I need totally 100 customers or 1,000 customers. How am I going to get this? So going deeper into that, actionable plan, action item split into quarter, then quarter is split into month, and month is split into weeks. At a rough idea, you need to have a plan. So this plan is going to give you a clarity on what you should do. For example, this week I am going to focus on all the women entrepreneurs I know in Bangalore. Week number 2. Week number 3, I am going to work on my college contacts. All entrepreneurs or people who are working in a senior management who studied with me in my college where they are working, I'm going to reach out to them. So some plan should be written either in your diary or an Excel sheet, so you have clarity on your plan. Otherwise, what will happen? What to do on sales? This itself will take a lot of your time. Then what will happen? Suddenly, some other day-to-day firefighting will come. So you will go and fix that. So if you have a spend some 5, 7, 6 hours on a weekend and create a plan. You can always modify it. You can talk to some mentors, take some opinion, talk to somebody senior who you know, take their opinion, and you can tweak it. But having this sales plan is going to help you big time. Okay.
Subramaniam, can we just go to the second point once? We had like, if you can just move, yeah. We had someone in the chat box who missed out that.
So if you want me to repeat the entire thing? No, that will be tough, actually. I will quickly.
No, that's fine. No, that's fine. I just wanted you to play so that they could take a note if they want, and then we can move ahead. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have to repeat it. You can move ahead. Yeah. Got
What
the
I want to
idea.
mention is reduce, reduce the number of product and service and focus on few things. Okay.
Sure. Thanks.
Okay. So third one is having a clarity on your sales plan. Don't think it has to be some of you may think that, no, I didn't do an MBA. I'm not a business guy. I'm not a salesperson. Okay. No, it doesn't matter. The fact that you are being an entrepreneur is itself much more than an MBA. Okay. So because I did an MBA and I'm a professor in MBA, I can confidently say entrepreneurship teach much more than MBA. Okay. So whatever plan you make, definitely it will be good enough. Okay. We can always tweak it. Fourth point is lack of clarity in pricing. Okay. So this is very important, even for B2B and B2C. Okay. So let me give two examples. Say in B2B, so generally what happens when I interact with the entrepreneurs is what I understand. Okay. So they got a proposal. This is about B2B. They want to send a proposal to a customer, and they did the costing, and the costing is coming around 8 lakhs. Let's assume it's 8 lakhs. But their mind says, okay, with 8 lakhs, then I should quote at least 12 lakhs, or there is a 50% profit margin, and they put 12 lakhs. They're just working on the proposal, not yet send it to the customer. But the moment they put 12 lakhs, their internal voice will say, hey, what? Do you think 12 lakhs will work? There are so many people in the market who can do the same thing. So what happens? The entrepreneur starts negotiating with themselves. So the biggest enemy in pricing is the self-negotiation. Okay. So you will negotiate with yourself. Then what will happen? Okay, 12 lakh will not work here. I have a lot of people in my company. I have to give them work. I have 5. I'm giving salary to 5 people. I need some project. From 12 lakhs, you reduce it to 10 lakh. Then you send it to the customer. Generally, after sending the proposal, the customer will not reply to you. If you call them, he will not pick your call. If you WhatsApp, she will not reply to your WhatsApp, and all those things happen. Let's imagine this particular customer is replying you after 1 week. He is calling and saying, hey, Anusha, I got your proposal. You have quoted 10 lakhs, right? You're saying, yes, Subbu, yeah. So Anusha, you know what? 10 lakhs will not work. The final price I'm saying is 8 lakh. You take it or leave it. No, Subbu, I think it's, I need some time to think. Sorry, Anusha, I don't have time to think. I'm under tremendous pressure. I want to start this project by tomorrow. If you want to think, I think I will go with some other vendor. So you are under pressure. Now your mind thinks, okay, it's 8 lakhs. At least I can cover my salary. I will improve my productivity and somehow will make it 7.5 lakhs in the costing, so that at least I can earn 50,000 as my profit. So you take the project. You have 1.5 month project or 2 month project. But after the project started, the people who are on the delivery side of your customer, they will ask for some more small features, small work to be done. You can't say no. If you put the costing for that, it again will come to 50,000. So what happens is we finally end up doing the project without making any money. How I'm saying this is, I have done this mistake many times in 2012, in 2013. The problem was self-negotiation. So what is the solution? This is the solution. Friends, listen to this carefully. This is very important part. So what is the solution? When you are preparing the proposal, you should have 2 prices. I repeat. When you are preparing the proposal, not when you send it to the customer. When you're preparing the proposal, have 2 prices. In the same example, okay, 12 lakh is the price I want to quote. That is called quoted price, QP. And 9 lakh is my walkaway price, WP. QP, WP. My quoted price is 12 lakh. And your walkaway price, don't tell it to anybody, but have it in your mind or write it in your diary. Don't tell it to your customer. Don't tell it to your colleagues. With 12 lakhs, you have sent it to the customer. So when the customer is negotiating with you, in your mind, you are very clear you will close anywhere between 9 lakh to 12 lakh. The customer is saying 8 lakh, you will just walk away. You will say, Subbu, I'm really sorry. We can be friends. If you want any help from me, I can ready to help you. But anything less than 9 lakhs, I'm not interested to work with you. Confidently say this. Okay. Out of 5, 4 you may lose, but 1 you win, you will have some margin. Okay. This clarity in pricing is very, very important, my friends. Okay. Imagine if you're in a B2C segment. In a B2C segment, what I recommend is you should have variation in your products. Okay. For example, if you're selling 4 products, if you're having a boutique clothing shop and you're having 5 different kinds of cloths to sell, there should be at least 1 or 2 which is premium priced. Okay. So you will say that this particular piece or this particular kind of product, I will sell only at a margin of 50-60%. Whereas some other product, I will have a margin of 10-20%. So if a customer is saying this is costly, okay, madam, you can see this. You are giving them a choice. So you are having products in variant price points so that you are able to satisfy every customer. So overall, you make some profit. Okay. So this clarity in pricing, below which you will not work, is going to save a lot of your time. Otherwise, what will happen is every time in customer, you will think in your mind whether I should take it or not. On that day, how is your mood? How much pressure you have? How much collection is pending? How much pending dues are there? All this emotion in your mind will force you to take a decision. But imagine you are having clarity when you are preparing the proposal, 2 prices. It's going to be amazing. Okay, you are very clear that you will walk away. You may ask me a question, Subbu, already I have only few leads. How can I just walk away? I don't have any other thing. I'm going to answer that. I'm going to answer that in another 10 minutes. Okay. But as of now, my request to you is have your walkaway price, whether you're in B2B or in a B2C, you should have a walkaway price in your mind and you should walk away below that price. Okay. So that's my recommendation on this particular topic. And the next one is point number 5 is sales as part-time activity. Okay. With many entrepreneurs, when I talk to them, what is the typical scenario is they work on sales and they get a project. Then they give their heart and soul, work for 12 to 14 hours in delight this customer, work for next 1.5 month. So the customer is very happy. They put all their effort to make them happy. When the project is about to end, they understand, oh my God, next week onwards, I don't have any other project here. What should I do? Now spend time on lead generation. Then win a project. Again, spend time on delivery. Again, win. So it goes in a sequential manner. I win a project, then I deliver, then I spend time on sales, then I deliver. So what happens is in between time, you are losing on revenue generation, or you are not in a position to negotiate. Okay. I know you can ask me, Subbu, I am a solopreneur. I have 2 employees. I don't have money to hire so many people. I understand all these things, but that cannot be an excuse. Sales cannot be a part-time activity. Sales should be an everyday activity. Every day you have to spend 2 hours on sales. Especially in the morning, 9:30 to 5:30, when the world is, customers are available for you, you have to allocate 2 hours on sales. You can do your other works after 7 o'clock in the night or early mornings. Every day we have to allocate time on sales so that you continuously have leads. You continuously keep sending proposal. You continuously meet customers so you can choose your customer. Okay, so that you are not in a pressure to succumb to the price negotiation. Imagine you have sent 10 proposals in the last 1 week. How you will negotiate? You will negotiate in a very, very different way. And imagine you just sent 1 proposal in the last 2 months. Then whatever the customer gives you will take it. Okay, so sales cannot be a part-time activity. Sales should be everyday activity. Whether you are spending 2 hours or 3 hours is up to you. But every day we have to spend time on sales. Okay, if you follow this, if you avoid all these 5 mistakes, my friends, let me summarize. Having clarity on target segment, reducing the number of product and service and focusing more on that. And number 3 is having clarity on your sales plan. Even whatever plan you make, having some sales plan ready with you, and having clarity in your pricing, quoted price and walkaway price, and doing sales as an everyday activity. these 5 things is going to help you big time. And what is the one thing you have to focus as a startup? Okay, the one thing you have to focus, in order to understand the one thing you have to focus to increase your sales, you have to understand what is sales funnel. Okay, so there are multiple versions of sales funnel. To make it very simple, if you can see the screen, I put only the top 5 things of a sales funnel. Okay, you start with the lead, then you qualify the lead. When you say qualify the lead, you either meet the customer or talk to him over the phone and understand whether he will really buy my product or not. Okay, that on your confidence level, he becomes a prospect. After you qualify the prospect, then you go and meet him, give your presentation or give your demo, or they come and see in your shop if you're a B2C. Then comes the proposal. If you're B2B, you send a proposal. In your B2C, they will ask you the quote and you're telling the quote, this is the price. After that, are we winning? No. Then there will be an objection handling. If you're a B2B, they will not reply to you. They will say your price is high. I didn't understand your solution. If you're in a B2C, they will say, madam, this is costly, or do you have some other variants of this? They will ask a lot of questions. You answer those questions and negotiate on that. And finally, you make a closure. Okay. These are the 5 steps of sales funnel. Let me take an example. Imagine in a matter of 1 month, you are having 100 leads and you qualified 50% of them. You assume that they are going to be a customer. You are interacting with them, meeting them, and then 40 of them ask you to send a quotation or send a proposal. And then you negotiate 20 of them. You close 8 or 10. Okay, this is the general thumb rule. If you have 100 leads, if you're in a B2C, if 100 people walk in, at least 10 to 20% will buy based on your product, right? Even in a B2B, if there are 100 leads, at least 10% will buy. But this is the best case scenario. But what is the reality today? When I talk to these startup founders, 500 to 700 of people in the last 3 years, they told me this number, okay? This is their number, my friend. I didn't put this. They told, in a month, Subbu, generally I make 10 leads. Actually, I try to qualify everybody. But if you ask me to really qualify, I qualify around 5 or 6 people. And generally 4 to 5 I send proposal. A lot of people don't come back. And at least with 2, we negotiate. I close 0 or 1. This is from the B2B perspective. Okay. Even in B2C, you can just add 100. But 10 closes or 20 closes in a B2C is not good enough. Okay. Even in a B2C, I recommend you should think about bulk deals. Even in the B2C, you will try to add a B2B variation so that your sales effort is coming down. Friends, a good salesperson will try to reduce his sales time. Okay, he spends a lot of time, but his goal is to reduce sales time so that he can keep selling to the same customer again and again and again. Okay, so this is the reality of the sales funnel. So now the question is, so what should I do? What should I do to come out of this? So friends, the one thing you should focus is pipeline. Okay, the one word I want to focus you on is pipeline. What do you mean by pipeline? All these 5 things: leads, prospect, proposal, objection handling, closure. This is called the pipeline. It's not only the lead is called pipeline. You should know, if you're a B2B, you should know how many leads I'm getting, how many proposals in a month I'm sending, and how many I'm closing. That data should be there in your top of your mind. If you're in a B2C, how many products I am making, how many people are asking me a query, and how many people are really buying, how many people are my repeat customers, what is the demographic of my customer. All these data should be in your mind. And you have to review this best is every single day. Can you spend at least 10 to 15 minutes in the morning on reviewing this? Worst case scenario, at least per week, can you have a review call with your senior most person or with your co-founder so that you are very clear on these numbers and continuously focus on this. If you're having 2 founders, one should focus on sales. If you are the single most founder, try to delegate some of your work to your 1 or 2 employees you have, or outsource some of your work. Create some time, spend the time on sales so that you all can grow. Okay. Friends, sales bring money to the table. Okay. Because of our passion on the product, our passion on the domain, we started the company. But trust me, once you become an entrepreneur, we have to learn sales. There is no excuse. Whether we like it or not, we have to learn sales. Only then we can scale up. Any successful company you see, they will be good in sales. Okay. So my request is, let's start learning sales in whatever way we can, whether from YouTube or training or from mentors. or discussing with fellow entrepreneurs, but spend some time on learning sales. So the pipeline is the one thing I want every startup should focus on, so that it is in top of your mind. Okay. So what are the next steps? We are planning some sales workshop in partnership with CWE. Of course, dates will be announced by CWE after getting inputs from all of you. Okay. Thank you very much for patiently listening to this webinar. I am open now to take questions. Please feel free to ask any questions you feel. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Subramanian. That was a really very focused webinar, I would say. And we do have a list of questions for you waiting at the chat box. So let us, before we talk about the workshop more at the end of the session, which we would be working together and inviting all our participants to attend, let's take the questions. So I will read out the questions. The first question is by Aditi Bhan. Aditi, I request you to come on video if possible, so that we can see you, and if there's any follow-up thing you can ask. How should we proceed with sales? Should we first approach the big companies or salespeople we know, or should we try our skills on unknown companies' salespeople?
Okay. So Aditi, what's your product or service, Aditi?
She runs a website where they offer online creative writing classes. The target audience is India.
Okay, so I understand based on a question, I understand she is into B2B segment. Understand, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So Aditi, the simple thing I would say is, first, see, any lead generation needs trust. Okay, so I would recommend whatever people you know, your friends or your relatives who are in a senior position in a company, write down all their names and ask for a reference. Ask for them to connect. For example, in content writing, I'm sure you will be talking to the marketing heads, right? So create a list of people and ask them connect you to the marketing head. And I would recommend, Aditi, you go and meet them. Okay. So for all entrepreneurs here, first 2 years, I recommend you do sales. Okay. Because even if you hire salespeople, whether they're working right or not, how will you know? Unless you put your own time and effort to understand sales, you cannot gauge them. Or they will give you some reason which we cannot understand. Okay. So to answer your question, create a list of people who can recommend you to the target customer to fix a meeting, have a meeting, and directly go and meet them. Okay. So use the known people approach first. Hope it answered your question, Aditi.
Thanks, Subramaniam. We would move on. Aditi, we hope your question is answered. This is by Karishma Tolani, the next question. I'm usually great up to the objection handling point, but have a hard time closing sales. Any tips on that?
Yeah. So first thing, Karishma, is you are not alone. Okay. The research says 50% of worldwide salespeople, including entrepreneurs, are having a hard time in closure. Okay. So the first consolence you can have is you are not alone. Okay. Because see, we should ask the closure question. What is the closure question? Sir, when can I get the purchase order? Can I deliver the product on Monday? You want to pay online or offline? This is called closure questions. Okay. So handle the objection and don't wait for the customer to say, yes, I will buy. No, don't wait for that. You ask the closure question. Okay. So there is a one tip I would like to recommend. Ask closure questions again and again.
Thanks, Subramaniam. The next question is by H. Mehta. Customers offer for freebies or discount. How do we handle that request? I'm sure this question would be valid for a lot of other entrepreneurs, because we also keep getting this question from our network sometimes. How to start, if suppose they have started with a free model, how do they move into a paid model, or how they handle this entire situation?
Yeah.
So
this also depend upon what kind of product or service you are having. Okay, so for example, if you're having a clothing product, okay, you sell boutique clothing, you can't give it free, right? Obviously you can't give it free. But being in India, people always ask a discount. So you have your idea saying that I will give you a 10% discount. So generally that's what we see, a 10% discount, so that they feel happy about it. Okay, so in India, discounts always work. But if you're having a premium product, or if you're very clear that you are adding a lot of value, then don't give any discount. Okay, so if there's a product has to be tested, for example, if you're selling software, people want to understand how it works. So you give a one week demo or a 1 month of free demo so that they use and they return. Okay. But if you're selling something which has to be consumed, if you're in a food or anything, there is no freebie, there is no discount. You cannot say that you have a freebie or discount. So it depends upon your business. But if you're in a business where discounts are possible, okay, have a cap. Again, I'm saying you should have a clarity in that. If you want to give a discount, you should be very clear. My discounts are 10%. If there is a bulk deal, it's 15%. Anything after 15%. However, even if they're buying 10,000 items, I will not give more than this discount. Okay. So this discount should come as a strategy on that and with a clarity. Okay. Now, if anything above the percentage, you should strictly say no. That's my submission.
Thanks. Sure. Thank you. The next question is from Harshala Shravan. How to sell subscription models and reduce churn?
See, reducing churn is purely depends upon the quality of your product. Okay, how you are adding value to your customer by your product. Okay, so that I am assuming you are good in that and you will take care of that. But how to sell subscription model? See, I'll give you an example. Okay, so I launched the annual training program. Okay, so when I say annual training program, 12 months, 12 session, every month one session. It's a subscription model. Like people have to pay upfront 100%. But why should they pay upfront 100% for a training program? So I clearly told was my price is X, and subscription model you are paying only 0.5 of X, and every month I will sell at the X price, and people join for X also. So the person who paid for subscription, he felt very happy that he got it at a very, very discounted price. Okay. So if you're going for a subscription model, I have two options. By buying subscription, what is the extra benefit he's getting, whether in terms of price or extra features? And there should be a normal model without any subscription where there's a huge difference in terms of price or features. Only then the subscription people will feel happy that they're getting a bargain, they're getting value for their money, because in subscription they pay money upfront. For example, Airtel is having a lifelong or 1 year kind of package where you pay 1,700 rupees, entire year calls are free. But what is the logic? You're paying the money upfront rather than paying 200 rupees every month. Okay. So subscription model is a very good model. Okay. I strongly recommend that, but you should show the differentiation with a normal model. Then it works.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Subramaniam. I hope that has answered your question, Harshala. Our next question is from Bhavna Ahuja. Generally, companies plan around having different product lines to have a more sustainable model. What do you suggest? What are your thoughts on such a model?
Yeah, Bhavna, I'm a big fan of that, Bhavna. Thanks for coming in video. Yeah, I'm a big fan of having multiple product lines. So even in my own sales training consulting, I have multiple product lines. So the advantage of having multiple product line is you are able to cater to multiple segments. Okay, so it is a simple strategy. Simple comparison is Apple versus Samsung model. Okay, Samsung is having multiple product lines. From 10,000 you have a Samsung phone, 80,000 you have a Samsung phone. Apple is having a single product line. I want to do. So till we become Apple, Samsung is a better strategy. But once you become Apple, then you can throw away this and say that. But till that time, having multiple product line is going to help you. That's my recommendation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bhavna. Thank you, Subramaniam. Subramaniam, the next question is from Monica. Her question actually is how to conduct sales approach methods to introduce a new product to customers. So here, actually, I would just like to add a point. We had received some questions beforehand too, and there was a similar question on how one should look into enter new markets. Because now, and with COVID, what has happened to a lot of businesses is maybe the market they were catering to has completely been zero. So suddenly they have pivoted. They are finding ways to quickly pivot and enter, select a new range of products or enter new markets. So some thoughts on how that can be done, because to enter new markets, you need a lot of planning, strategy, exploring, and everything. So any suggestions or tips and tricks on that?
Yeah. So thank you, Ashwin. So there are two questions. First, I will go with the new product. Okay.
Yeah.
When you have a new product, the question is you want to sell the new product to a new customer or a new product to existing customer. So that is the first question. In sales, we call as NPNC and NPEC.
Yeah.
So my recommendation is, if you already have some customers, sell your new product to your existing customer because you already have a relationship. Okay, maybe you can give it them at a discount, or you can bundle with your existing product and sell it to them and take feedback from them. Okay, and improvise on the product. Then you take the new product to the new customer. Okay, and when you go to the new customer, only you know this is a new product. The customer don't know this is a new product. Okay, don't go and say them, sir, it's a new product I'm launching it. No need to say that. Okay, so unless they ask you. So when they ask you when you launch, then you have to tell the truth. So with new customer, the questions from a new customer is going to be different from the question from the existing customer, because the existing customer already have some trust and credibility with you. So the point here is, sell it to the existing customer, take feedback, and then once you have the feedback, ask the existing customer, what are things you like in this product? What are things you don't like in this product? What are things you want to improve in this product? Based on which you customize your product. Then you are now ready. Then you can go and handle the new customer. Okay. If you don't have an existing customer, you are very, very new. You are having a new product and you are having a new customer, just starting the business. What I would do is give it, if it's a product, give it free to few people and take feedback. So at least those 5 people is going to be your new customer. The known people, if it's a B2C, give it to your friends or give it to your relatives and take feedback. So they are your customers now. If you're in a B2B, through your friends and relatives, get some free customers. Through the forum like CW, give it free to some customers and take feedback. Now your mind of, I'm going into a new customer, that fear is gone, that anxiety is gone. Confidently you can go and sell it to anybody. Okay, this is question number 1. Question number 2, I should ask about entering the new market.
Yeah.
Yes. For example, I entered Dubai for the last 2 years, and it took me a lot of time to understand, but now I have a strong hold in Dubai, and now I'm taking the companies where I consult, I'm taking them to Dubai. So what I did is, because I studied in Dubai a long time back, so from here I started making contacts. Any new market you want to go, sitting here first to make contacts. For example, you are currently in Bangalore, you want to launch your product in Mumbai. So through your existing friends, relatives, known contacts, talk to people in Mumbai. Okay, have some connections and go to Mumbai. Make some relationship, attend a conference or attend a seminar, understand things, do the homework, and then go and launch. Okay. Any new entry, at least I would recommend you should have 3 months of homework in understanding. When I say homework, now Corona, you can travel. In general, go and travel, attend some conference, attend some seminar, networking event, understand the market, talk to some of the potential clients, take their inputs, and then launch it. Even when you are launching, the go-to-market strategy is very big. For example, you are launching on your own, or you are launching with a channel partner, or you are launching through online sales. So multiple questions are there. So to answer your question, there should be enough homework. Start slow, slowly become big. Okay, let us not go gung-ho, start your office there and launching. I would not recommend that. Being an entrepreneur for 10 years, those days are gone, where this month is Bombay, next month is Delhi, next month is Hyderabad. Unless you have a strong VC money to support that, I would recommend start slow and then scale up.
Thank you, Subramaniam. That was very real. So thanks for that. I'm sure all our entrepreneurs can connect and benefit. The next question, we'll take the last 2 questions actually in the interest of time, and then talk about the workshop we are planning together a little at the end. So this question is from Anjali Sharma. How does one remove the emotions from the technicals? For example, if someone bargains with me, I get so charged up about my product. So how to deal with such
a good question, Anjali. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
The problem is sometimes, see, there are two ways to look into that. Okay. First is, as entrepreneurs, we are very obsessed with our product. Okay. So for us, product is everything, because day and night we have sacrificed some of our pleasures, we have sacrificed to create this product. So if somebody say you are costly, your product is not good, our emotions come quickly, our emotions boiled up, and we used to defend up and go that. So, but it's not going to work in sales. Okay. So we have to be dispassionate. At least when you're selling, we should see, when you're pitching, you should show the passion. But when you're negotiating, it's not about the product. It's about the person. Okay. See, even forget about negotiation. Even sales itself is about the person. Okay. So the other party should first like you. They should get connected with you. Only then they will buy. For some reason, if they don't like, even if your product is good, you will not buy it. So for example, you are a big fan of Apple. You go to Apple store. The sales guy there disrespects you. He insults you. He's arrogant with you. Will you buy the Apple product? You will not buy in that store, but you go to some other store and I will buy it. Okay. For example, if the other person is very kind and polite, even if it's charging 5% extra, you will still buy it. Okay. So this is a common message to everybody here, my friends. Anjali asked a very beautiful question. Sales is more about people and less about product. I repeat, sales is more about people and less about product. First, you have to win the person who is buying. Win their mind. Then comes the product. Of course, product expectation, product quality, working on the product, this is all given today. Okay. Whatever we are doing, there's somebody else also in the world who can give a similar or a better product. I'm sure you all will agree. The differentiator is how you are dealing with your customer. Okay. So we should have the passion for the product, but we should not talk more about the product. Okay. It's all about the people first. So people first, product next. Okay. Hope it answered your question, Anjali. Yeah.
Thanks, Subramaniam. Yeah. So yes. So Subramaniam, actually, I had a question on pricing, but I think that you have answered that in the last few different questions where you talked about the freebie model and the subscription model and everything. So with that, we come to the end of all our question answer session. And thank you everyone for all your questions. And Subramaniam, we have some very good responses on the chat where people have said that they really felt like their questions were answered in a single webinar. And for new entrepreneurs, some of the entrepreneurs who are very new, your insights have really helped them. So thank you very much, Subramaniam. Thank you for conducting this session for us and giving us a lot of insights into so many sales tips and tricks. On that note, I would I would just quickly like to let everyone know that we at CW are planning a very focused workshop with Subramaniam on sales topics actually. So we would, these will be very closed groups. So these won't be general webinars. They would be closed groups and they would be a paid model. But you would actually like work very closely with Subramaniam to work on your models or work on specific things. So we would send you a feedback form after this webinar. We would request all of you to please let us know in that feedback from the topics you would prefer or any suggestions on topics and everything so that it can help us curate this workshop with Subramaniam better. And maybe since we do have like 4 minutes to go, maybe on the chat box, you can just let us know if you'd be interested for a workshop like this or any topics you have. You can just put it on the chat box. Subramaniam, you would like to add anything like on the workshops? Is that just a quick?
Yeah. So I would like to, definitely my goal is to help entrepreneurs. So I have something called the level 1 workshop. Okay. So when I say level 1, this is the basics of sales, which everybody has to understand. Okay. So for some of the topic are like how to do effective follow-up. If somebody is saying don't follow up, how to handle it. How to follow up without irritating the prospect. How to prepare for a customer meeting. How preparation can be a competitive strategy. How to generate leads without spending money. This all I call it as a level 1 program, which I do at a 4 90-minute session. Okay. If of course I will talk to you and we can design it together. So I want to ask people, are you all ready to learn sales over a period of 4 days, 90 minutes every day, which will going to stay with you for a longer time? Or you all, how many of you are interested for this? If you're interested, you can just type yes. A 4-day program, 90 minutes every day. So overall, it will be around 360 minutes. If you're interested, just type yes.
Sure. Great, Subramaniam. So we have gotten good response. So we'll obviously work on curating this session and send out a communication very shortly to all of you. We would please request once again for all of you to fill in the feedback form. Thank you, Subramaniam. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining us today. Subramaniam, we have also gotten just a feedback that your personal experience, talking about your personal experience made the entrepreneurs connect to your story better. So thanks for that approach. I mean, that was a very good, very interesting approach that you took.
So
and
Shri, friends, Please don't think I did everything right. I've done a lot of mistakes. Okay.
Yes, certainly. I mean, that's what I think. Learning from the mistakes, right? That's why we had even titled the webinar that way. So we do talk about the mistakes also. So yes, but take out the positives from it at the end. Yes. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. The recording for this webinar would be available on the CW YouTube channel. You can see on the chat box that there's a link to our YouTube channel and all the social media handles. So about all our upcoming webinars, all sessions, everything would be updated on those handles. Request you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our pages to stay updated. We would be announcing the fee and everything, details about the webinar shortly, and you would be we would send communications to you. So please stay tuned for that. Our next webinar, we have a webinar on the 17th of July on a digital marketing for MSMEs, where we would again very interactive session on how to use digital marketing tools, maybe Facebook business, WhatsApp business, and all that. So we would invite you all to please join that webinar too, and look forward to seeing you all on a lot of our webinars in the future. Again, to know more about how to be connected with CWE and the two types of memberships that we have, that is Gold and the Platinum membership, please write to membership@cwe.org.in and be a part of our platform. To connect to Subramaniam, do write to us and we would make a connect. We are also working with him for a workshop, like we have already said, and hopefully we would be communicating with you guys a lot more shortly. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Subramaniam. Thank again for doing this for us. And can I please request everyone to quickly come on video so that we can take a picture with Subramaniam? You just put your videos on quickly. Yes.